It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Insurgents in Syria continue to make rapid gains as the government denies that President Assad has left the country.
Doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
The future president and the future king meet in Paris as Donald Trump takes to the world stage once again.
And it certainly seems like the world is going a little crazy right now. Yeah. And we'll be talking about that.
Cancellations, loss of power and loss of life. Storm Darragh sweeps the UK with winds of more than 90 miles an hour. West Ham say their striker Michail Antonio is in a stable condition in hospital following a car crash. And reborn from the ashes, Notre Dame Cathedral reopens its doors to the world 5 years after barely escaping destruction. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Good evening. We start tonight with another day of astonishing developments in Syria as insurgent forces continue to make progress towards the capital, Damascus. Such was the confusion amidst the rapidly changing situation that the government was forced to deny rumours that President Assad had left the country. Tonight, a group of regional powers, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey and most significantly Russia, issued a joint statement saying that the current crisis represents a dangerous development for regional and international stability. Until recent days, there had been a static division of control between the three factions: the rebels, led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, President Bashar al-Assad's forces, and Kurdish-led troops to the north. The rebels began their offensive from the province of Idlib, which for years had been the last anti-regime stronghold in Syria. They then moved west into Aleppo, Syria's second city, taking it in just 3 days. And on Thursday, they dealt another blow to Assad's regime as they pushed south into the city of Hama. Earlier today, there were reports rebels have entered the key city of Homs, having already taken the nearby towns of Rastan, Talbisay and Termayela on their advance. Now, rebel elements have reached the suburbs of the capital, Damascus, President Assad's seat of power, where they were seen toppling a statue of the leader's father. Our Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle reports.
This is in the suburbs of Damascus, only a few miles from the centre of the Syrian capital. A statue of Hafez al-Assad, Syria's last leader, is pulled down. The rebels are closing in on his son Bashar al-Assad, who remains in Damascus for now, according to state media.
Our armed forces units are strengthening their lines of deployment throughout the Damascus countryside and the southern region in order to prevent chaos caused by the terrorists.
Rebel forces have also reached the outskirts of Homs, another major city on the road to Damascus. Syrian government forces seem to be fleeing. The military base in Hama was abandoned. And regime soldiers, on the right of this video, are abandoning their posts in Al-Mazah to the west of Damascus. They are seen changing out of their military fatigues into civilian clothing and fading into the population. The government is quickly being abandoned by those who used to protect and enforce its ruthless rule. Jails have been captured and hundreds of prisoners freed. This was Homs prison earlier tonight. Every building and town square the rebels take, symbols and images of the regime are being torn down as Syria faces a new and unknown reality.
Everyone must now see and accept this truth. There is now a new reality in Syria, politically and diplomatically, and Syria belongs to the Syrians with all its ethnic, sectarian and religious elements. It is the Syrian people who will decide on the future of their own country.
The coming hours and days will be crucial, not just for the regime and President Assad, but for the future of Syria and wider Middle East stability. If Assad is overthrown, many will celebrate his demise. But what comes next should also be a cause for great concern.
And Alistair joins me now. A very fast-moving situation this evening. We've heard stories of security forces fleeing, of prisons being raided and prisoners let out. What's the very latest, Alistair?
Yeah, I mean, fast-moving is the right way to describe it. I mean, almost moving at times more quickly than we can keep up with it. I think two sort of centres tonight to focus on. Homs, which is one of Syria's major cities, and it looks very much like opposition forces are now in the centre of Homs. One of the rebel commanders is instructing forces there not to harm anybody, and particularly saying, anybody who lays down their arms. That's a message for troops loyal to President Assad, who, as you saw in my report, many of them seem to be either fleeing or just trying to melt into the population and abandon their loyalty to the Syrian president, and calls from the rebel commander not to harm them. Significant, very significant what's going on in Homs, but more significant what's going on in Damascus, because it is the capital and because of the proximity to the presidential palace and Bashar al-Assad, assuming he's still there. I mean, that is the best information we have, is that he is still there. There are rumours that he might have fled, but they are just rumours at the moment. His options are limited. The momentum is so clearly with the rebels, and has been all week. They haven't really been halted during their advance, and there's nothing at the moment to suggest they will be halted if they decide to try and march into the centre of Damascus. And I think that's exactly what they will try and do. So if that does play out, does Assad try and negotiate, or does he flee, or does he stay and fight? If he tries to negotiate, well, his hand is limited now. He hasn't got much to bargain with. It might be that he tries to flee either abroad or to the western coastal cities, which is kind of his stronghold, his family is from. If he stays to fight, I think it could end badly, but things are moving very quickly.
Indeed, Alistair, thank you very much. It certainly seems like the world is going a little crazy right now. Donald Trump's take on global affairs as he met the French president at the Élysée Palace today. Emmanuel Macron used the occasion to act as a matchmaker of sorts between the incoming US president and the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, amidst growing concern in Kiev that Mr. Trump is preparing to force a rapid peace with Russia. Mr. Trump also found time to meet the Prince of Wales with Kensington Palace, saying that he shared what were called warm and fond memories about the late Queen. Here's our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn.
Notre Dame Cathedral came down in flames the year before Donald Trump's political fortunes went up in smoke when he lost re-election. Now both are risen from the ashes. President-elect Trump is at large even before taking up office on his first trip overseas since his election.
More than a month before he returns to office, Donald Trump is back on the world stage, being charmed and courted by world leaders. The French, the first to make their effort, hoping to influence his thinking, most of all on Ukraine.
Emmanuel Macron was the first to woo President Trump the first time round, before relations soured a little. But the bromance is back, it seems, right down to the same old funny handshakes. Before their meeting, Donald Trump said they'd be discussing events abroad in these times of turmoil.
It's an honor to be here. We had a good time together, and we had a lot of success, really great success working together on defense and offense too. And it certainly seems like the world is going a little crazy right now, and we'll be talking about that.
Great to see you.
Whoa, what a nice group. He's a good man, this one.
Donald Trump met Prince William, offering him praise, but it's the diplomacy on this trip that is attracting comment. Donald Trump's look, yellow tie, blue suit, the colours of Ukraine, may or may not have been intentional or a good omen. As he met the country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, in a surprise encounter engineered by their host, the body language was perhaps a little awkward. Western leaders fear Donald Trump may enforce negotiations with Russia, giving away too much to Vladimir Putin to end the war. This was all a diplomatic coup for Emmanuel Macron, in deep political trouble at home, but still on form, it seems, when it comes to handling Donald Trump. Will that be enough, though, to keep the Western alliance on track and intact for the next 4 years? Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Paris.
And just to let you know, amongst the guests coming up on Sunday morning with Trevor Phillips tomorrow, the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, and the widow of murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That's from 8:30 tomorrow morning. To Storm Darragh now, which left thousands of people without power across the UK and the Republic of Ireland throughout the day. One man was killed after a tree fell onto his van while driving on the dual carriageway in Lancashire. Another was killed in similar circumstances in the West Midlands. With winds of more than 90 miles an hour, there's been widespread disruption, with hundreds of cancellations at airports and for rail passengers. The sporting world was also affected, with the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool cancelled. Our national correspondent Tom Parmenter reports.
The warnings have been loud and clear. The Welsh coastline was on red alert as winds reached more than 90 miles an hour.
The first time I heard that alarm on the phone was like a very scary thing, so yes.
Do you think those alarms seem justified given what we're seeing now?
I think so.
You hear these warnings, but you don't ever think it's going to be this bad.
I lost my spectacles, I don't know. They blew off in the wind. They blew off in the wind.
Yeah.
3 million people received a siren to their phones and explicit warnings about what could be in store.
Some of those people may have looked out the window and thought, what is all the fuss about? But for others, in the more exposed parts of this coastline, the path of Storm Darragh has been pretty full on.
The cabins on Llandudno Pier have withstood all kinds of harsh weather for nearly 150 years. But Darragh ripped one of them up. In parts of South Wales, there was little sign of the storm. Grant and Peter still went for their morning dip in the sea at Penarth near Cardiff.
I swim every day. If there'd been debris in the water or high waves or a lot of wind down here, I wouldn't have gone in.
And it didn't put off those who fish here regularly.
It's pretty safe, as you can see. It's not that bad, is it? I think it's a bit of an overreaction, and as long as you're safe, you feel safe, I think, yeah. And get some cod for dinner tonight.
The Welsh First Minister insisted the warnings had been appropriate.
We were really pleased that the people of Wales heeded the alarm system that was sent out for the first time on such a large scale last night. People have honoured and respected that warning, and we've had, of course, severe disruption, but so far not the kind of calamitous situation that many had feared.
In Lancashire, a man in his 40s died after a tree fell on his van near Preston. And a similar thing happened to another driver near Birmingham. In the west of Ireland, they spent the day clearing roads and tens of thousands of homes lost power. The sporting calendar took a battering too. The last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park between Everton and Liverpool will now be rescheduled. And the organisers of Christmas markets and festive events were forced to call them off. The high winds are now clearing the UK, but people are being asked to continue to take heed of the weather warnings and flood alerts that are still in place. Tom Parmenter, Sky News.
So what is driving this latest example of extreme weather here in the UK? Our science and technology editor, Tom Clark, has been taking a look.
A red weather warning is a rare thing, and Storm Darragh more than lived up to that dubious honour. The maximum winds recorded at Capel Cerrig in Wales, 93 miles an hour. In North Devon, in England, 89 mile an hour winds in Liscombe. And in Northern Ireland, Port Orlock saw 76 mile an hour winds there. And the storm was absolutely huge, 1,000 kilometres across, passing right through the middle of the UK, encircling us in winds coming from the east, the north, but the most powerful blasting in from the southwest. And it's just over 2 weeks since Storm Bert caused widespread flooding across Wales and southern England. And with 4 named storms in the last 3 months, it's not unreasonable to ask, is the UK getting stormier? In fact, by this time last year, we'd already seen 6 named storms, with 12 in total. Yet the year before, only 2 named storms. You have to go right the way back to the 2015-16 storm season to get anything comparable. And before then, comparisons are difficult because then you started naming storms in 2015, but it's still believed that the storm season of 2013-14 saw the most intense storms in the UK for about 2 decades. Now, even though our planet is warming, it's dynamic processes like the high-altitude jet stream that drive storms towards us, and that's a complicated picture.
Climate change has had a kind of complicated relationship with the jet stream, and that hasn't resulted in a change in frequency of these systems, but the increase in temperature over the North Atlantic has given these storms more moisture, and that moisture results in being able to intensify more.
Climate scientists have been watching this closely because storms get most of the energy that they need and the moisture from the oceans. And ocean temperatures in the North Atlantic last year here in yellow have been tracking well above the 20-year average and have continued to do so in 2024. The relationship between climate change and the number of storms we get and how windy they are is very uncertain, but there's a definite trend towards wetter winter weather as our planet warms. And as Storm Darragh moves on, we're all going to get a bit of a flavour of that future as it dumps rain across nearly all of the UK, even those areas that escape the worst of its lethal winds.
Just want to bring you an update from Syria. We're hearing via the Reuters news agency that the Syrian rebels are announcing that they have now taken full control of the city of Homs. That was discussed previously, but there was no confirmation of it at that point. But coming from Syrian rebels, they are announcing now that they have taken full control of the city of Homs and progressing towards Damascus. We'll keep you updated on that situation throughout the course of the evening. Well, this weekend, we had expected to see the second round of voting in a presidential election in Romania, but the vote was called off and the first round annulled after the country's highest court said Russia had seriously interfered with the result. Now, the frontrunner, Carlin Georgescu, who had previously denied links to Vladimir Putin, has told Sky News that the court had launched a coup. He was speaking to our Europe correspondent, Adam Parsons.
Carlin Georgescu wants to talk to us. He was poised to be Romania's next president before the election was cancelled at the last minute amid claims of Russian interference. He insists he's done nothing wrong. Let's talk about the specific allegations that were made by the Constitutional Court when they stopped this election.
Exactly. The Constitutional Court, first of all, I want to be very clear from now, is a mafia court of Romania. Because they cannot accept, and 9 people, because the court is a function of 9 people, 9 people decide for 19 million of people. This is not accept. This does mean coup d'etat, made by the state.
Do you have any links to Russia?
Doesn't exist any relationship with any foreign part, or particularly with Russia, as they said. Doesn't exist from my side. My only relationship with the Romanian people.
If a foreign state had tried to influence this election, would you condemn that?
Absolutely, totally.
Are you saying that one of the reasons the Romanian state stopped you was because they were under pressure to prevent a peace deal in Ukraine?
Yes, for sure. They need war and they need to protect their chairs. NATO become from a defense organization an offensive organization. And this cannot be accepted.
If you're right and the state is against you, do you expect the police to turn up and put you in prison?
I don't care, because I said very clear, my life is not important in front of the eternity of my people and my country and my nation.
There will be those who say that you are a conspiracy theorist and that you have tapped into a sort of global wave of conspiracy theories.
This is just the propaganda. They know they lost and they are desperate. And they are coming with this propaganda. Come on, we discuss about free people, free men. I am a free man. for this reason I am here, because I am free until my last piece of blood.
For some, this is the man robbed of victory by the establishment he wants to destroy. For others, he is a danger to democracy, the most contentious politician in what is now a volatile nation. Adam Parsons, Sky News, Bucharest.
South Korea remains in political limbo after efforts to impeach the president failed. Today, MPs aligned to the leader boycotted the vote and left the National Assembly without enough parliamentarians to pass the measure. South Korea's opposition party has now proposed a new impeachment vote, which takes place in a week's time. Our Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch sent this report from Seoul and a warning that it does contain flash photography.
They wanted their president punished, but his party had another plan, saving him from impeachment. They claim it was through sabotage. Most PPP members boycotted the vote.
What you're seeing and hearing here is real frustration and anger. They believe that the politicians in the building behind me have put their own cynical ambitions ahead of their democratic responsibilities. But they are determined and convinced the president will eventually have to go.
I think they are crazy. I think they are standing for the president, not for the people. They have to change their mind to support the people of the South Korea.
They don't do anything to correct the president's mistake. So I'm so angry, and I think we have to protest as possible as we can.
As images of democracy go, this was pretty damning. Rows of empty chairs, most of the ruling party unwilling to sit in judgment at their leader's decision to declare martial law this week. One of the few who did got a hero's reception, only to reveal later he was backing his man. The leader of the opposition looked deflated.
What's your reaction to the vote, sir? Are you disappointed?
What they do want is a second vote.
The president has broken the constitutional responsibilities, and he should step down and should be indicted.
He has at least finally apologized.
I am very sorry. I sincerely apologize to the people who must have been very surprised.
The head of his party insists he will now push for his orderly resignation. But for many, that's not nearly enough. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Seoul, South Korea.
Time now to catch up on all the very latest sports news with Rahul.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
Pep Guardiola has dominated English football since his arrival, winning 6 out of 8 titles. I went to pick his brains on his own journey and how he sees football development in this country.
Starting in my little town, when I was born, like all, the childs in the neighborhoods, like in that time was no traffic lights in my little town, no cars, and all the time in the street. And after Academy Barcelona came, arrived with 13 years old. So all my life was there. And everything the Academy of Barcelona gave me, absolutely everything. Aware for the game, aware from how you have to behave, in a group of people, respect the managers and the institution, and everything. The club is more important than you. Accept that you are not good enough, you don't have to play, the effort, accept the defeats. Many details the sport teach you was there.
How important, Pep, was mentors in your life?
Mentors, Johan Cruyff was basically, when it's a little bit more mature. In that 30, you had a boy, away from a home, living in a residence, and the manager was a father figure in that moment. And you are lucky to find, the right ones.
You've been to Germany, obviously, Spain, Barcelona. England, Man City. If you're looking at the players now that have come through the teams that you've managed, why are those players so good, Pep? Is it just natural? Is Phil Foden just natural?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Natural skills is not enough.
Is it more difficult now to bring young players through?
It depends on the quality they have. It's difficult. It's a good question. It's difficult because there are always had the feeling the young players that we loan or we sell or didn't get the minutes, like Cole Palmer, for example.
Yeah.
If I would have give them, but not just catch the cold and explode, like in terms like it's unbelievable, and he deserves all this success and this season in Chelsea. It's not happen. If I would have give them the minutes that maybe deserve it, surrounded for a David Silva, Vincent Kompany, all the big players there, put it there. They will have played good, absolutely. I know that. But in the moments, in that level, you know that you have to win for all the titles. You don't have too much time to, okay, let's see. Has to be, Phil Foden arrive, you see something like the impact has to be
straight away. Yeah.
Otherwise,
that's brought the level up. It's competition, Pep.
Yeah, right. It's a jungle. I see now national team from England. So imagine the time like a Lampard or Gerrard or Scholes and Ferdinand and Terry, Wayne Rooney, all these players. They were bad. And look now.
I know.
Phil and Saka and Hurricanes and all the players. And it will come. In 10 years' time, we'll see English national team and say, oh my God, what a player this one. It's natural selection.
My next stop took me to Spain to see a manager who's won league titles in Europe's top 5 divisions. Not to mention 5 Champions Leagues. It takes a brave boss to play the kids at the very best clubs. But what drives Carlo Ancelotti's philosophy when it comes to picking young players?
I started playing football and to have a passion for football when I was really young, 7, 8 years old. And then slowly, I grew up, and when I first started to think about to be a professional is when, at 15, I left my family and I went to Parma to play in the academy of Parma and to study in Parma. I lived for 4 years in Catholic college. Really tough, really strong. Who I am now is because was the experience that I had in that period. My father was my role model. I think the sport helped me.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality.
Well, as we were hearing earlier, Paris today was the scene for some high-powered diplomatic face-to-faces. But what brought Donald Trump, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Prince of Wales, and a host of other world dignitaries was an event soaked in history. The reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral after its partial destruction by a fire in 2019 was marked this evening by a service that the French president called a jolt of hope, as one of the world's most famous buildings was officially reborn. From Paris, our correspondent Adele Robinson sent this report. I'm afraid we can't bring you that report at the moment, but that was Sky News at 10 coming up. We're going to be taking a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by author and activist Shola Moshogbamimu and broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of The Telegraph. Their headline, Zelensky endorses Trump's call to end war. We'll be right back with that story and others. Do stay with us.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Do you fear a fourth indictment? Does your government owe an apology to the British home children?
Great to see you.
Does your government owe them an apology? The fact that they were intercepted, does that indicate a military weakness on the part of Iran?
No.
Free, wherever you get your news. There's no doubting the strength of this hurricane as it roars through. You can feel a devastating power. It had been a difficult night in a deadly storm.
Bang, bang. You can hear it hitting the windows.
Our houses are okay.
It's depressing.
As bad as all of this is, it could have been much worse. Today, this land they call sacred is at the heart of America's electric car revolution.
To me, it's a sacred ground.
The white gold rush is a race that Biden doesn't want to lose. I've covered some of the biggest stories in the world. Donald Trump, 45th President of the United States, it would appear is about to learn his fate.
Escort coming out!
San Quentin houses America's largest death row. They rarely allow cameras onto the condemned block.
James Matthews, Sky News. I want them to be treated equally like everyone else. It's one step closer to getting out, to getting off death row.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
Are you diminished by claims that you're a racist?
Question?
Mr. Musk, has your ignorance and ego cost Ukrainian lives? Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding. What do you call him, sir?
He's from Sky News. He's from Sky News. He's entitled to ask me questions.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America? People want their country to work.
You want to jump in a normal life?
Why are these homes empty? I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Welcome back, where we can now bring you Adele Robinson's report on the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral.
From the ashes, a jewel of French Gothic architecture rises. 5.5 years after Notre Dame burned. A victorious resurrection. The Archbishop of Paris led the way.
Notre Dame.
Striking the great doors. And after years of silence, the cathedral erupted into song. This was the moment this towering masterpiece reopened. A triumph for French President Emmanuel Macron. It was his promise to rebuild after the fire of 2019 destroyed Notre Dame's famous spire and roof, taking 15 hours to extinguish. It's believed to have been accidental, though the cause is still unclear. To mark its rebirth, heads of state converged, President-elect Donald Trump among them. One of his closest allies, Elon Musk, too, as well as Ukraine's President Zelensky, and representing the UK, Prince William. All took part in a standing ovation for firemen who saved the monument.
I stand here in front of you
to express the gratitude of the French nation. Gratitude to all of those who saved, who helped, and resurrected Notre Dame.
This procession of banners marking the start of worship here once again. And then there was a reawakening, the great organ with its 8,000 pipes. A spectacle for all those braving the rain just to be near. And this, a public thank you to the world, because what's so significant about all this is not just the speed at which it's been achieved, but it's the public and global outpouring of support. 340,000 donations from 150 countries. This piece of France's cultural identity extends far beyond its shores. Forgetting global turmoil for a while, the day belonged to Notre Dame as it came back to life, preserving the past for the future. Adele Robinson, Sky News, Paris.
You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with author and activist Shola Moshogbamimu and broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now, starting with the front of the Telegraph, which says that Ukraine's President Zelensky, who met Donald Trump in Paris today, has endorsed the president-elect's plan to push rapidly for peace in the war with Russia when he takes office in a few weeks' time. The Sunday Times says President Assad's regime in Syria is hanging by a thread as rebel forces reach the capital, Damascus. The Mail on Sunday speaks to the son of the late Harrods owner, Mohammed Al-Fayed, in which he reveals that his father faked dementia in order to trick police into not investigating claims that he'd committed a series of sexual offences. The road accident which left West Ham striker Michail Antonio seriously injured in hospital is lead story in The Star, the headline, Antonio Miracle. Same lead for the Sunday People, with the headline Prem Star in Crash Horror. The Express claims an exclusive with calls by the former England rugby captain Lawrence Dallaglio to help a generation of young lost boys facing a bleak life without hope and the destructive consequences that could follow. The Mirror speaks to Colleen Rooney's mother about how her appearance on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here has restored her zest for life after the Wagatha Christie trial. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Shola Moshogbamimu and Lucy Beresford. Welcome to you both. Thank you very much for being with us. Let's start with the Telegraph front page, the Sunday Telegraph, and this line from President Zelensky endorsing Trump in his call to end the war, to bring about peace negotiations. This is off the back of their meeting this evening in Paris, Lucy.
Yes, I mean, very interesting. It was the reopening of Notre Dame, but it has ended up being an incredibly political experience. In fact, you know, the photos from it, I assumed we'd get photos of the building, but actually the photos that we're going to discuss in a minute are of world leaders and Trump in particular meeting Prince William. Zelensky was there. In a way, there was a power broking going on by Macron, and getting Zelensky to meet Trump even before Trump has become president. Again, the most extraordinary thing, this man is not president at the moment, but he is being treated as if he were. And that in itself is a really telling part. Zelensky's probably looking at what's happening in Syria, thinking, why didn't that happen 6 months earlier? Because Russia has obviously been a bit distracted. Nevertheless, Zelensky, I'm sure, is just willing this war to end and appears to be falling into line with the angle that Trump himself has been putting forward, which is that the war with Russia has just got to end as soon as possible. And for that to happen, it's probably going to need to be a negotiated settlement. And for Zelensky to be saying that is quite a big deal, I think.
Yes, and Shola, we have recently heard Zelensky say, speaking to our correspondent Stuart Ramsey, that there could be a potential to cede land to Russia, even temporarily, but that possibility exists. That was the first time that we heard him say that. And now meeting with President-elect Trump, it does seem that we are moving towards the end game, doesn't it?
It does feel like that, because I don't think Zelensky has a choice at this point. He wasn't saying this before Trump came back on stage. With Joe Biden, he never talked about ceding any land or anything like that. In fact, he rejected any idea of that, because he and the Ukrainians have been fighting, you know, with their sweat, with their blood, to be able to keep their land. So for him to now say he's ready to cede almost like 4 states, I believe, I think that tells us that he recognizes the United States is their main backer with arms, their main backer with funds, with everything. And if a new president is coming on, i.e. Trump, who is already saying, listen, I'm going to be, you know, stripping back on how much we're giving you, he has no choice but to play along and to be seen to be a team player, so to speak. So it almost feels bittersweet, because after all of the, I'll be honest, it kind of feels as though, you know, the West has been fighting this war with Russia, but using Ukraine as a proxy. That's how we do it. Because the Ukrainians have been fighting hard and trying very hard to maintain their independence. And whenever they need something, they have to almost come with a begging bowl.
They do have to beg.
Yeah. And that to me seems a shame, especially because the people who are meant to be backing them, their allies, should be there front and center, who keep saying, we need you to fight because Russia is the enemy. Well, if Russia is the enemy, then why are you backing out? Why aren't you there front and center? But Trump is clearly saying this needs to end. And you, Zelensky, you need to be able to give up some of that land. Because in my time, you know, this is all about Trump. Trump wants to be seen as a president of peace.
Well, he did say he would end the war in 24
hours. And also, there's a sense in which this article is also drawing attention to the more creative aspects that might be on the table, that actually it isn't just about, you know, the weapons or who funds which side, but it's about possibly there being a buffer zone and who gets to, you know, a little bit like North Korea and South Korea and the demilitarized zone between those two, that maybe something like that could get carved out in the border between Russia and Ukraine. And the idea that again has been put forward by the Americans. Again, you almost feel that simply by being the new kid on the block, even though of course he isn't, but just by being the next president, that Trump can call the shots in a way that Biden never could.
And interesting what Lucy was saying about the president-elect being treated as if he were president today. The front page picture that we see on the Telegraph with this meeting with Prince of Wales also, which took place in Paris this evening, Shola.
Can I just say, I saw, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway, I watched the Sky News coverage of the Notre Dame opening, and am I the only one that thinks that all of those important guests that were sitting in the front row all looked cold, miserable, and expressionless? I'm like, you are in church. Where is the joy? You know what I mean? I mean, this auspicious event is calling for a certain je ne sais quoi, like joy, joy to the world. But they're busy giving us, you know what they're giving us? Can I go home because I'm cold?
They're very cold.
It was a little bit somber. It was a very somber occasion, but I think that perhaps was in keeping with the
contrasted with the amazing music that then did happen. You had the bell, which has this incredible purity of tone, which I just happen to know is F sharp, apparently. Really beautiful. And then, obviously, the choral singing was amazing. But it was the moment that the organ started up that hasn't been heard for 5 years. And in a way, I don't really care what they were all wearing and how sad they looked and how kind of they wanted to be at home watching I'm a Celebrity. What we really got was the majesty, the awe of that music filling that space. And that's, in the end, that's what we were all there.
But I think you're right in that there was a little joy lacking, which it was a joyous occasion.
Very joyless. Like,
but again, it was because I think it was being treated as a bit of a diplomatic coup.
This is church, people. There should be joy, joy, joy. And they should look like they are happy to be there, not like, you know, the look on Prince William's face is a look I have on my face when I'm at an event. I'm like, can we please move this up, people? I've got a date with my duvet. That's what you look like. You look like I'm cold. And did you see Trump? Trump was so cold, he was sitting like that. And these people weren't showing any kind of joy.
But it was a joyous occasion to restore the magnitude of
and none
Notre
of the
Dame.
headlines show that. None of the headlines are talking about how you just described. Yeah.
Interesting take. Let's move to the Times and the situation unfolding in Syria. Very fast-moving situation with rebel troops on the outskirts of Damascus now and having claimed to have taken Homs, the significant city of Homs. Lucy?
Yes, again, an extraordinary story because we have been aware of this civil war bubbling along in the background for about 10 years.
But it was almost forgotten, wasn't it?
Completely wiped off the front pages by other quite worthy incidents around the globe. But of course, again, an incredibly important geopolitical story, which does include Russia. And so the fact that the rebels have really blazed a trail just in the last maybe 8 to 10 days. This particular article in the Sunday Times is querying, where is Assad? His wife has apparently gone. His brothers-in-law have left the country. So and Assad has not been seen for about a week. And what you've got is a couple of the other strategically placed players like Iran, like Russia, who have been distracted by other events, all now suddenly thinking, well, we better give a little bit of an attempt at showing some support for Assad, but their heart isn't in it, clearly. And that's going to have another interesting repercussion, perhaps, in the Israeli-Gaza conflict, because if I was a member of, the parliament or the governing body in Palestine, I'd be thinking, yeah, you're not really focusing too much on us. You're not really supporting Syria. Are you, Iran, actually going to come to the support of us? So so many players in this particular story are going to be affected by the domino effect of what's happening in Syria.
Shola, do you think that we're at the end of Assad's regime? Papers reporting that, it could fall as soon as this evening.
I've decided that I'm not going to listen very much to what the papers say too much because they tend to always give a certain slant. I mean, look at the fact that, for instance, here to talk about the U.S. saying that a U.S. official told CBS News that the city appears to be falling suburb by suburb. We know the U.S. is not on the side of Assad, so who's telling the story and who should you believe? I don't know if Assad's reign is coming to an end. All I know is that clearly whatever he has been doing, and with Russia as his main ally, and what the rebels have been doing as well, there is a story here that is emerging. There's going to be a change that is emerging here. Whether the status quo will remain for much longer, we don't know yet. All I know is that every time I read the paper about another conflict, I've now learned to read in between the lines and read several more papers to be able to come. I just don't think we have enough information to be able to determine right now whether Assad's regime.
Yes, but I think certainly the psychology of this is that you have a man who was really holding on to power because he was supported by so many other geopolitical players, and they're all now kind of fading away. I think the mood music is very much that Assad is on the way out. You've just got two of his big backers are otherwise engaged elsewhere, and you've got certain cities that are being taken by the rebels.
On the other side, who are they then going to back? It was one of the reasons, or I'd have thought the main reason they were backing Assad is because they see a geopolitical, security strategy or whatever interest they have in Syria. So if they're not going to back him, who have they now decided to back? That should be the question.
Shola and Lucy, we must leave it there. Must take a break. Much more to discuss, obviously, when we come back. We'll be looking at this story on the front of the Mail on Sunday. The son of the late Harrods boss says his father faked dementia to avoid police investigation of his alleged sex crimes. Do stay with us for more.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem. Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
It's a Premier League double derby weekend on USA. First, on Saturday, Liverpool look to strengthen their title run against Everton in the Merseyside derby. Then Sunday, Chelsea aim to stay in the hunt when they face Tottenham in a London derby.
And this meeting might shift the dial in that derby.
The Premier League Double Derby Weekend on USA.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Migrants risk their lives climbing aboard these trains in search of a dream, the United States.
It's really dangerous. They often get robbed on this train.
They suffer a lot by police, cartels.
What happens to them next, we just don't know. Do you miss your mum?
With Trump coming to the presidency, how much longer will people be accommodated?
The journey you've been through, it's been very difficult at times. Has it been worth it?
See.
This is a journey which goes by one name, the Beast.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
Free, wherever you get your news. The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's
supply line right into the...
here in Los Angeles.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
Day of this conflict. They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle. Why only in America? People want their country to work.
You want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, author and activist Shola Moshogbamimu and broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Let's take a look at the front page of the Mail and this astonishing claim by the son of Mohammed al-Fayed, Omar Fayed, saying that his father tricked police into thinking that he had dementia by way of getting out of the allegations of the sexual crimes that he was alleged to have committed.
Yeah, this is an absolutely extraordinary story. The whole story has always been really quite shocking to the extent that you can't quite imagine how somebody like Mohammed al-Fayed got away with the things that he has alleged to have got away with. And the answer might be because he said to the people at Scotland Yard, I have dementia. I mean, assuming he had some kind of medical note. But what we do know from the stories that have come out quite recently around the relationships that he is alleged to have had with members of staff at Harrods is that some of those relationships were facilitated by these girls undergoing medical tests. So it's very possible that this gentleman, I hesitate to call him that, had, doctors in his back pocket who were able to give a diagnosis or to swear that this person actually had the diagnosis of dementia. And now what's come out is that one of his sons, who quite clearly is trying to distance himself from this man, who has gone public a couple of months ago saying, I loved my dad, but the things that are coming out about him really do make me question my feelings for him. He is saying that actually that was one of the ways in which he was able to dodge prosecution.
Shola, let's move on to the Express, because we are running out of time. And this very interesting story, Lawrence Delalio is saying that there's almost a lost generation of boys that needs to be attended to keep them out of prisons and within the education system, that attention needs to be paid to boys, essentially.
And this is not a new story. It has it's part of the conversation that, comes up and time again. I think it's something that, as a society, we should be very much aware of. And it's talking about that there's a crisis of boys spiraling out of control, and that they're being lost to high suicide, imprisonment rates of these young men, and that society is not paying attention to them, who they are, what their circumstances are, the roots of the problem. And so there are people saying, look, why aren't these young boys, being given the attention, the care, the focus that this needs? Because without that, we will lose a whole generation of boys that could be the better future of the society. And that's what this article is about.
Charlotte and Lucy, thank you so much for taking us through the papers. We'll see you in the next hour. Let's take a look at the weather for you now. Well, Storm Darragh stalls over central and eastern parts on Sunday, only edging slowly away to the near continent. Skies will clear to the north and west as high pressure builds from the west. Sunday looks like being cloudy, wet and windy over central and eastern England, but drier elsewhere, with brighter skies for Scotland, Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Yellow wind warnings will expire through the morning as winds ease. Showery rain will persist from Yorkshire down to the southeast, taking in the Midlands. Elsewhere, there'll be brighter skies with just a few blustery showers. Temperatures will reach 7 or 8 Celsius at best, which will feel chilly in the northerly wind. Coming up next on Sky News at 11, all the latest from Syria as rebel forces make rapid gains on the road to Damascus.